Business ownership can be tough, let's be honest, but it can be even more challenging for female business owners. And in today's episode with business coach Brenda Hector, we will explain why there's challenges that females have through stages of life. And today we really go deep on that topic. Now, man, that doesn't mean that you can fast forward from this track. We absolutely need you to listen. We want to raise awareness. We need your support, whether you've got female business partners or female team members. Please have a listen. Brenda, why business coaching for you?
I didn't choose business coaching, actually. I chose to have a business. I wanted my own business, and I was looking for ideas. I didn't know what I would do. I just finished my MBA and was looking for something to do. And I was looking at franchises, and Actioncoach dropped into my inbox, and it took my background in science and my experience in an entrepreneurial organisation and the bad experience I had when it was bought over by a large conglomerate, and the experience from the MBA, and give me something that I could do that could really help people. Yeah, I didn't choose coaching. I think coaching chose me.
I love that. And, you know, you've done an MBA and now you've been a business coach for a number of years. What do you find, what can you share that you've kind of learnt more from your experience in coaching with businesses versus your MBA?
I hardly learned anything in my MBA. Compared to actually running my own business and working with other business owners that are, the theory is great, but when you actually have the practical hands-on running a business is totally different from anything that they taught me in uni.
Yeah. So you've worked with however many businesses over the years. What do you find is, a common challenge that business owners face that you work with?
I suppose when we meet business owners, often we ask, what are of the three main challenges? Is it time? Is it team? Is it money? But I think actually often it's the business owner themselves. A lot of business owners get into business because they need a job and they create themselves a job, and then they see their business as a job. It's just something that's a way of giving them something to do, rather than the potential that, there's so much more potential in a business than there is in a job. Being able to can grow much more, can have a much bigger impact on staff and local communities and our economy. So I think a lot of business owners don't even think about that. So I think that's something that limits the growth of a lot of businesses.
What's an example of how you've helped one of your clients through that process?
I've got a few actually that have been with me I'm thinking of two in particular that have been with me for a number of years. And when I started working with them, they created themselves a job, just like I described there. Both now run an agency style business. There's one that's got virtual assistants and another one that's a marketing agency. And in the beginning, they were just selling their own time, and now they're actually the managers of quite a large team. Both of them actually being able to take time out of the business, and their customers are still being served. So yeah, I think I'm answering your question. What was the question again?
Well, yeah, how have you helped those clients that you have been working with through that identity of, the change in the kind of identity of business owner that they had to have to scale?
I would say step by step. I think where any business owner is today, they can only see so far. So we take them a little bit further out of their comfort zone and stepping a few steps ahead. Then the horizon moves. You can only see so far, and when you get closer to it, you can see further. So taking them step by step, and not often they can't at the beginning, they can't see the potential at the end. So just taking them step by step through growth and overcoming the challenges that are facing them on a daily basis means that they become better business owners, and their business becomes better as time goes on. Does that
it does
answer the question?
Yeah, so the challenges that they have kind of day by day, with growing their business. What kind of challenges are you finding that they're coming up against?
Now we're talking about time and team and money. Yeah, using those two businesses as an example, there's only a limited number of time in a working week. And they're delivering to their clients and then having to also find more work and find the people to help them. Recruiting's really difficult. Yeah, those type of challenges. Learning how to manage a team, learning how to find good people, not just settling for my friend's brother needs a job, I'll take him, when that he's not necessarily the right person. There's a good bit of mindset shift that needs to happen there as well. Being able to generate enough money to make that all happen. Cash is the biggest killer of businesses and the toughest. And it doesn't really matter how big your business is. Businesses can fail due to lack of cash, even though it looks like they're doing really well. So helping them to understand their numbers and not the accountancy stuff that the accountant needs to do to file your returns and keep you legal, but the numbers that help them to make decisions on a daily basis.
And do you find that, let's just talk about those, maybe pick one of those clients that you shared in the service industry, maybe the agency as an example. So how long have you been working with that business?
That must be 4 years or so now. Yeah.
And why did they first come to you for help?
She described herself as an accidental business owner. She started her business when she was made redundant because she didn't want to have a gap in her CV, and just thought she'd do that for a while until she got another job. Actually, 5 or 6 years on, she's built this team of 15 people, and she's delivering to all over the world. But she'd got to a point where she was burning herself out and she didn't know how to take the next step to grow it. Yeah, that's why she came to me, I think, in the beginning.
And so she got it to a certain point and then she didn't know what to do next. Like, what were some of the steps that you then helped her with? So was she an active kind of role in the business, working in the business herself every day?
She was the only person working in the business.
Right, okay. So she was the only one in her business at the time of working with you, and now she's got how many in her team?
12 or 15, I think.
Wow, amazing. In 4 years. And so, she didn't know how to scale, so you helped her scale the business.
And she thought she didn't want to. She said she didn't want to have staff. That's quite, you're smiling, you've heard that one as well, I think. Yeah. It's too much stress. I don't want to have staff. But, with someone else, with me guiding her, it was less scary. And, use the tools that we've got for best practice, if you like, in managing staff and delegating to staff and working out what's the right thing to focus on and what's the right thing to give to someone else. So yeah, time was a big challenge for her. So just looking at how she spends her time and then looking at the things that she enjoys doing in her business, because a lot of people in business are doing the bits, they get into business because they want to do one particular thing, and then they discover that to run the business around that thing is actually a lot of work and stress, and maybe they don't have the skills. So helping her to run the business that goes around the outside of that marketing part that she really wanted to be delivering. So being able to understand that if she brings other people in, then they can be better at it than her, rather than her having to be able to do everything herself. Bringing people that are better at one particular area and being able to trust that they can do that better than her means that she's freeing up her time and her headspace to grow the business.
Yeah. So what was the vision so you said accidental business owner, which I thought was really interesting and not one I've sort of heard before, but did she kind of, as time evolved, did she have a vision, or did that vision evolve as time went on?
Yeah. She's now looking to retire, so she wants to build the business to a level that she's going to be able to sell it. Somebody else is going to be able to run it. So from being a business where it was only her and she was doing everything, it's got to get to a point where she's not involved. And we're getting there. We'll be there in a year or so. She'll be able to step away completely.
Amazing. And the other client that you mentioned, what sort of business was that one?
So she's virtual assistant. So she's now got a team of virtual assistants with lots of different skills as well. So it's not just, your standard bookkeeping and email and diary management and that sort of thing. They're doing marketing, they're doing, lots of specialists as well within that team. So it's good.
Yeah, outsource agencies are it's such a growing market and such a demand for VAs and virtual assistants now. So what a great business. And so tell me about, so a lady, again, a female owner.
Yes. I work with a lot of female business owners. I do work with men too, but lots of women. So yeah, she had a challenging time actually. She was suffering from really bad migraines. So she would have like 2 migraines a week and be knocked out, unable to work unable to work for a couple of days each time. Her time was really limited, so she had to learn to be really focused on when she was able to work on the things that were going to have the biggest impact, and be really really strict about how she spent her time. She did a calculated 1 year, I think maybe 2022, that she'd lost about 50% of her working time due to not, being knocked out with the migraines, and her business still grew.
Isn't that interesting? And so, gosh, I've got 2 questions for you there. What were the migraines about?
That was the good old perimenopause, I think. Yes, that was,
That old thing. Yeah, gosh, I want to come back to that. But my second question about her was really interesting, that her business still grew even though she did 30% less. So is it that focused time of real kind of time in the business, efficient and effective time, allowed her to do? I mean, we just waste so much time. It's easy to do, isn't it?
I taught her the default diary. So it's something that we use within Actioncoach to help our clients and our teams to be effective in their working week. So I taught her the default diary, which she then has just totally taken on as her own. And she's all of her team, anyone that joins her team, that's one of the first things they get taught, because, they're selling their time. So they're working with a number of clients over the week. So they're having to manage how they block their time in their diary. And I mean, yeah, she can teach it much better than I can now. She's the queen of the default diary.
Teach it to me and our listeners who may not know what a default diary is.
It's like a school timetable. My daughter, she's in high school. She goes to school, and between 9 and 10, she's focused on her maths. And when the bell goes, maths is finished. We don't think about maths again, and we move on to the next subject. And it's a really efficient way of being focused and not trying to multitask, because when you switch between tasks, you lose, it's called context switching loss. So you lose some getting your head back into where you were. That wastes time and efforts. Having a really focused time to spend on one particular thing. So we do that within our businesses. It'd be time to be generating new business, time to be doing our marketing, time to be doing our bookkeeping and our invoicing and things like that, time to be delivering to our clients, and having that fixed schedule through the day or through the week, so that we know if something comes up, we go, oh, that's something I'll deal with tomorrow morning when I'm doing my invoicing, and not jumping around between it. So being structured and having a clear focus and not jumping around between tasks makes a big difference, and that not just for business owners, but for anyone in any role.
That is something I personally struggle with, I would say, a lot. It is so easy to be so reactive, this person needs you for this and that person needs you for that, and the phone will ring and messages come in, and it's very kind of, you've got to really be disciplined to sort of block out the noise, don't you?
And it's a new way of thinking as well. In the 2020s, with our mobile phones, and people can contact us anytime, just thinking that it's okay to switch that off and not deal with emails as they come in. Oh, but I've got to be there for my customers. But actually, if you're in a meeting with another customer, you would let it go. So yeah, just letting you decide, or the business owner themselves decide when they're going to respond to things, and not having having to be reactive all the time.
Yeah, and I can see how once you've really got that discipline, how much time it would free up, how much more you'd get done because you're actually focused in achieving things that you need to do to move the business forward. So that's kind of like time blocking. I've never heard it referred to like school, but that is so true. We did go from subject in a concentrated kind of period of time, focused on that subject, and then we'd go to the next class. And yeah, I love that.
And we stop it when we leave school.
And then we stop when we leave school until we go to university, and then we do it all over again. Brenda, you mentioned that you work with a lot of female business owners, and
I do, yes.
this is not a topic that we've discussed on this podcast, but I'd like to bring it up because you've mentioned it to boot.
Yes, any opportunity to bang this drum. I'm horrified you've not talked about it before, Michelle.
Well, I am too, yes. And look, there's lots that men and women can learn from each other. So this isn't just specific for women, but for female business owners, what is the difference you find between men and women in business? And why do you kind of find that you work with more women?
Well, I'll start with why. And I've always been, I believe that we can do anything that men can do. I don't think there should be any difference between men and women and the achievements that we can reach. And not long after I'd started with Actioncoach, I went along to what I thought was a networking event organised by the Royal Bank of Scotland. Actually, they were launching the Rose Review of Female Entrepreneurship. So it was a review that was carried out here in the UK, looking at the women entrepreneurs. And that review showed that only 1 in 3 entrepreneurs in the UK are female. Men are 5 times more likely to scale their business to over £1 million in turnover than women are. And if we matched and scaled men in starting and scaling businesses, it would add 250 billion to the UK economy. I was horrified. It went on and it talks about the reasons and then the things that we can do to make a change there. But I was just, that's terrible. And 250 billion, the UK economy is not in a brilliant place, and the difference that could make. And we've got the tools to do something about it as action coaches and as business coaches and people supporting business. So some of the reasons why that is, I mean, the cultural reasons and the burden of home and family life and caring and that's typically the women take more of a burden there, so they're less able to focus on growing a business. The funding for female-led businesses, there's numbers there. I don't recall exactly the numbers, but that's terrible. Very few female-led businesses are getting the funding to the same level as men are getting. And there's availability of childcare, and there's some government things that the government need to change to even up the playing field there. And also that women don't see other women entrepreneurs, so they don't know that it's a route that they could take. There are fewer examples and people for them to follow. So I thought, well, I don't have the pockets to make a difference to funding. I can't influence government policy to any extent. Culture's changing. My daughters have got a different attitude to their careers than probably me and my friends did when we were in our teens and 20s. But what I can do is maybe showcase women that are doing it, starting and growing their businesses. So I launched a podcast a few years ago now where I'm interviewing female business owners and hearing their story and understanding the challenges that they face. And sort of I want the listeners to think, oh, if she can do it, I can do it. Or she's just like me and she's got there. So that's my, any opportunity I get, I will tell people that we need to make a difference to address that gender balance in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I love that. And so you mentioned, and hopefully this isn't controversial, but when you mentioned that women, you wanted to profile women so that other women hear about, other women kind of paving the way or starting a business and their challenges, and they feel like there's a like-minded group of people out there to kind of connect with. Do you find that women as business owners have less confidence than men in some cases?
Yes, I think so. I early on I interviewed a lovely lady called Abby, and she has a business that she's passionate about our oceans and the marine environment and educating people about what they can do to protect the marine environment. And she has a business where she's luxury resorts around the world educating people who are on holiday about the beautiful environments that they're visiting. So she's got staff all over the world, and she's got a really big why and a beautiful team. And I said, I'm just going to talk to you about your experience as a businesswoman. And she says, oh, I don't think of myself as a businesswoman. Like, just really downplaying what she does, and it's all about the impact, and she didn't really see herself as a businesswoman. So I had to change the way that I talk about women in business, because I was using the wrong language, and they weren't, when I said businesswoman or female entrepreneur, they didn't recognise themselves as those terms.
That's
so yeah, I think
we do need to do
often
something
play
about
themselves
that.
down. Yeah.
I mean, we have such a beautiful community of women business coaches at Action Coach. And it is, I know every time I talk to one of our amazing coaches like yourself, Brenda, I really do feel empowered. So there is something about kind of community for us that we do love. And I know everyone loves
I think
community.
we can't do it ourselves, though. There aren't enough of us women to make that difference. The people we need to be educating are the men that can help.
How can they help?
That
How can men
they can
help?
do exactly the same as us. Within Action Coach, we have the tools to help these women to step up. So maybe just being conscious that women need. Do they need more help? Do they need different help? They just need help. They need support. They need to know that they can do it. They need to see that this is something that's achievable for them. So I do interview some men on my podcast, because often men have got a message that is relevant for us. But I'm not just interviewing men because they've been successful in business. I want men that have got a message that can help women to grow their businesses.
Amazing. So you mentioned one of your clients that was going through perimenopause, I think it was. It is one of the really awesome qualities that we get as women to go through that phase of life. How much can that really impact the business and our environment?
Massively. And I've experienced it myself. I've struggled there. I had with that client that I mentioned, and another client, and I was sitting on a Zoom talking to her, and she's going, "Oh, I'm burning out," and I'm thinking, sure, this is hormonal, and like, had she carefully asked, has she thought about that, and had she had any investigations, and I'm burning out, and I lost that client. She stopped working with me. I need to reach out and see how she's doing, actually. But I was invited to a webinar about burnout, and I went to. So I thought, well, I'll attend this, and I'll be able to help her better. And I sat there and I listened, and by the end of that webinar, I was like, I'm in perimenopause. I didn't just the penny dropped, and I had terrible brain fog. I couldn't. I really struggled to make a shopping list, to think about, if this is what we're going to have for dinner and these are the ingredients that I need and that's what needs to go on my shopping list. That flow of thought, business was really tough. I always thought my brain was the best part of my body, and it just wasn't functioning properly. I had a moment where I'd been working with I had a group coaching program, and we'd recorded the coaching session for somebody who couldn't be there, so they could listen back to it. And in my foggy brain, perimenopause brain, I uploaded the business coaching recording to the podcast platform instead of the podcast interview I'd done with one of the people in that group. And she phoned me one Friday night. I was at my friend's for dinner, and you've put our private conversation on the internet for everybody to hear, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was awful. I changed it round, took it down as soon as I realised what had gone wrong. Bless her, she was really understanding. But yeah, I was straight to the doctor. I had patches within 2 weeks, I think. I went off when I got the patches. I went off on holiday, and came back 2 weeks later as a different person. And because it comes on slowly, you don't realise, and you just think it's the stress of running a business, because it is stressful, was early days in my business, and it's awful. Women leave their jobs, women close their businesses because they can't cope with the
Relationships.
yeah.
Yeah, I really resonate with that story. I think a lot of women, who are listening to this, and I, similar to you, a couple of years ago, had been through that, and I was just like, "What's wrong with me?" I thought there was something really wrong with me, and you can really easily dip into um, you know, things like depression and, with lack of sleep and all of the symptoms that you had. Went to all the doctors and GPs and had all the blood tests and all the things, and none of them in any example actually said, this is what you're going through, that it was perimenopause or menopause, until I went to a specific hormone doctor, and she sat me down and she took me through a checklist of like 50 things. And I literally answered yes to 49. And I was just things like itchy skin and, all of the things that they attribute to menopause, and just felt validated. I felt like, okay, this wasn't me. It's not something wrong with me. I mean, there was something wrong with me, but you know what I mean? And it was, I just, got, obviously went on, HRT and obviously, different things. And that really did help and kind of became normal again. And I just think there's just really still not enough awareness about it. And we are trying to do a lot more things. We've got, busy lives, and, we're mums, we're wives, partners, we're running businesses, and there's a lot of kind of plates that we've got spinning in the air. And it doesn't take much, does it, with something like that to feel a bit unbalanced?
Disappointed to hear that it's the same in Australia as it is here in the UK. It's something that's going to happen to all of us, and that we're not educated about. Our GPs are not educated about it either. We have to do the research ourselves and then going like this is what I think it is, and this is what I want to be, how I want to be treated. The treatment that I've done the research, and this is what I think I should be getting, rather than it's
I mean,
it's difficult.
It's the thing that I love about this conversation is that, we talk about business a lot, and obviously we're a business coaching organization. Obviously we do a lot is about the business, but it's also about the person, the business owner, the team, the kind of we're on this amazing ride as human beings, and things happen along the way with our journey on this experience. And having these conversations are really important, because those things can impact the business big time.
Yeah, because it's not just the female business owner, it's all the staff. Male business owners have female staff and need to understand how they can support. Well, understand if someone's having these challenges and how they can support them, and that to do it right, they're not going to lose good people because they're struggling with the stress and the symptoms that are coming with it.
So for business owners that are listening, whether it is men who, as you mentioned, have got female business partners or teams, or business owners that are women, what are some tips that you can give around, trying to kind of understand where they're at, or if things aren't right, what would be a good step for them to take to kind of discover more?
I mean, there are lots of resources out there for how to create a menopause policy or things like that. Not a tick box exercise. Oh, we've got a menopause policy, so we're supporting our female staff. That's not. It's not necessarily just because you've got the policy there doesn't mean that you're actually helping them. And part of that, making people aware that this happens. If you could be educating men in their 30s that this happens to women in their 40s, so that it's just a known thing to talk about, rather than being something that women in their 40s get. It's a shock to them, and then they don't know what they can do. It's like something that's not been talked about, so it's a taboo subject. So if I am struggling with menopause, I can't tell my male boss about it because it's a women's thing, and he'll be embarrassed and I'll be embarrassed. So having in larger organisations, education, I think is be really easy to put that in there into their culture, if you like. Support around fans on a fan on your desk, so that if you're having a hot flush, the ability to open the window or control the aircon, or be able to work somewhere where having the window open doesn't disturb the rest of your colleagues. Just to be understanding about that sort of thing. The stress and the anxiety that comes with it. Being aware of anything you can do within the business to help the individual to cope with that, and not to be, as a result of them having the stress because of these reasons, that makes it just adding more stress on top. I'm not sure I'm articulating that as well as I would like to.
I think what you're saying is create an environment where it's safe to one, feel comfortable about talking about it or sharing where they're at, and then what are the support mechanisms around them, like a fan on their desk, or are they near a window and things like that. Man, when those hot flushes come on, it's like you feel like you're on fire. So yeah, that's a great tip. And I think too, also, we become very close to the people that we work alongside and our teams and business partners, and you just know when something's not right. I think asking, are you okay? You notice that there's a difference in whether it's behavior, moods, whatever it might be, and supporting them, one, asking, are they okay, and supporting them in any way that they need. But then, like you said, creating a safe place for them to feel like they can talk about it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having this discussion. I do feel like there are a lot more discussions around, menopause and the change that we do go through as women, podcasts, and more awareness that's becoming. It's more of a talked about topic. But I love that we've talked about that today. So thank you for the conversation.
There's a very good podcast episode by Mel Robbins, actually, on her podcast about menopause. We'd definitely send people there to listen to that.
So menopause is obviously one of the things that can have an impact on women in business. What are some other things that you find from working with women clients that can have an impact?
Imposter syndrome is a big thing. It doesn't only hit women, and it's very common in business owners. I think there's a higher percentage of imposter syndrome experienced by business owners than by the general population. Yeah, that example of the businesswoman with the marine educating business, that didn't see herself as a business owner, she would admit to imposter syndrome there. Many, not believing that they should be there. So that's one of the reasons for my podcast as well. You can do it. You can be here. You can be stepping up. So I think that's a massive one. And somebody did say to me that when they start to feel a bit of imposter syndrome, it means they know they're in the right place. They know they're pushing forward, because if they stayed in their comfort zone, they wouldn't be getting that. So maybe see it as a good message that you're feeling a bit of imposter syndrome, that you're
an opportunity to grow.
Yeah,
I love that. And thank you to all the men who've listened to this episode. And thank you. I know I feel very supported by a lot of men in our organisation and my team. And, I think it's just great to kind of have this conversation. 3 questions that I'd like to ask you, Brenda, to wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best book that you've read?
I've read a lot of books since I've joined Actioncoach. I love to learn. Continuous education is a massive part of who I am. So the best book, my current favourite, is probably a more relevant answer. I've been reading The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It's amazing.
Her new book?
Yes.
Okay. Them.
The Let Them Theory.
Okay, the Let Them Theory. I haven't read it yet, so I'll have to get that one. Thank you.
I've been telling everybody.
Yeah, great. And who's been kind of the best mentor or coach for you throughout your career?
Well, that's a difficult question as well, because since I've joined Actioncoach, everyone within the organisation is so supportive. Right from Brad Sugars to my neighbouring coach, who we run Growth Club together. We came through training together. But at the moment, I'm working with Bruce Wilson, who's an action coach from New Zealand. He's he's just been amazing. So getting some
And
big growth set shifts with working with Bruce.
And I love as coaches, we also we drink our Kool-Aid and we all have coaches as well. So that's awesome. Best piece of advice that you ever received?
Best piece of advice that I ever received? Oh, I don't know. Oh goodness, that's a really tough one.
Get a coach.
Probably. Yeah, believe in myself.
Believe in yourself. Yeah, that's a good one. I love it. Brenda, thank you.
Difficult. Sorry, I was
Sorry,
just going to say
say
it's difficult to always follow that advice. I'm working on that and working on helping all of my clients to believe in themselves.
Well, it's great to have you in our community, and I really appreciate your time and your sharing today. Thank you for the learning, Brenda.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle Adams, your host here. Hats off to you for committing to your learning by listening to this podcast. And if you'd like some help implementing some of these strategies, then click the link in the description to find your local action coach. They can help you put these strategies into action and take your business and your life to the next level. In the meantime, like and subscribe so that you're the first to get our next episode. We'll see you soon.